Given what you just said about the strong differences that you and President Putin have on the future of Syria and the conflict there, can you talk a little about how you see that unfolding, both at the end of your tenure, at the beginning of Donald Trump's, and whether you have concerns that even if we eliminate the Islamic State in eastern Syria and western Iraq, we may be allowing a permanent al-Qaeda safe haven around Aleppo and Idlib? And on Aleppo, can you say to what extent you think the United States has fulfilled its responsibility to protect in that instance?
With respect to Syria, as I said, I think even on this trip in a previous press conference, I am not optimistic about the short-term prospects in Syria. Once Russia and Iran made a decision to back Assad in a brutal air campaign and essentially a pacification of Aleppo, regardless of the potential for civilian casualties, children being killed or wounded, schools or hospitals being destroyed, then it was very hard to see a way in which even of trained and committed moderate opposition could hold its ground for long periods of time. And the issue that obviously I've wrestled with for the last 5 years, how involved should the United States be? What are legal constraints in such involvement? What are our moral obligations? What are our strategic interests? Those haven't changed. I continue to believe that we did not have a legal basis for military intervention there, that it would have been a strategic mistake given the work we still had to do in Iraq, the counter-ISIL campaign, ongoing operations in Afghanistan, that we have worked tirelessly to arrive at a political transition of some sort and they could alleviate the suffering and provide humanitarian access. And we will continue to do that work all the way until the last day that me and John Kerry and others have the authority to speak for the United States government. But ultimately, it takes 2, or in this case, 4 or 6 or 8 to tango. And we're just not getting help or interest from those parties that are supporting Assad. And Assad, as a consequence, has been emboldened. Look, this is a man who has decided that destroying his country, turning it to rubble, and saying its population scattered or killed, was worth it for him to cling to power, when he had the option to peacefully engage in a transition that could have kept the country intact. That's his mentality. That's not a mentality we support. That's a mentality that the Russians and the Iranians have been willing to support. But at this stage, we're going to need to have a change in how all parties think about this in order for us to end the situation there. Now, our ability to go after ISIL, I think, can be sustained. There's no doubt there will continue to be extremist forces in and around Syria, because it's still going to be in chaos for quite some time. There will be elements in Iraq, just as there have been elements in Afghanistan, even after the Taliban were swept out, even after we killed bin Laden. But I think we can effectively reduce the risk and take their key external operators off the field the thing I'm probably most concerned about is making sure that even as we do that, U.S. policy, U.S. statements, U.S. positions don't further radicalize Muslims around the world or alienate and potentially radicalize law-abiding Muslims who are living in Europe or the United States. And that's why I think it's important for us to understand those are our key allies in this fight, not enemies.